Well, that's why they have to be selective on where they're buying and what markets they're buying in. If they go too broad, like I've said before, and I said this years ago, you have to have boots on the ground. That's the key. The boots on the ground, the agents, and that's why we're not going away. It's, yeah, you can rely on AI and all this other stuff, but you need integration of the professionals on the ground to make this work. And that is the difference of what they're doing now.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Shawn and Matt Show. My name is Matt. That is Shawn. Welcome to our show, Shawn. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about Opendoor. Okay, so I think last time we talked about them was a couple years ago. Last time anyone talked about them was like that. They had the most epic of epic runs from like 2020 to 2022. Do you remember this? Everyone was coming out, you know, with their iBuyer program. By the way, Opendoor. It's how would you describe it? Would you just say it's a house flipping company at scale? Is that what's like the easiest way to describe what Opendoor does?
Cash offer for your house at a reduced price, and then they're going to flip it. They're going to
so the benefit, cash offer, quick sale. So if you can't wait a long time on the market, if you don't want to pay fees, it's a cash offer. It's a quick sale. And then what Opendoor does, they come around, they slap some gray paint on it. You know, they put in some LVP. And then they put it back on the market. And then they try to make the money on the spread because, you know, they have the AI pricing models, but they're still going to be offering you, you know, less than market price. Is that a fair kind of broad stroke?
They have to offer a significant amount less than market price because they have to. That's where they're going to make their profit. And they're taking on all the risk of market conditions. Okay. So that's the tough thing. And there's a lot of competition out there with so many smaller guys that are trying to do this and the big iBuyers that were all coming out at once.
Yeah, so I mean, you had Opendoor, which I think they lost like $1 billion, you know, in their iBuyer program. Zillow, you know, lost like $500 million. But Shawn, something is happening. Okay, so Opendoor's stock in June was a low of 51 cents per share. Now it's over $9 per share. That's like a 1,600% increase. They have just hired a new CEO, Kaz Najatan. He was the former COO at Shopify for 6 years. He has experience at Meta. This is like a smart dude that knows what the heck he's doing. Like every interview, everything I've seen about him, really, really good. Co-founders Keith Raboy, Eric Wu have rejoined the board. So there's
significant.
There's lots of momentum. And I think other than Compass, Opendoor, and sure, Zillow kind of always has the spotlight, but Opendoor is making waves. And I'm just so, I don't know if I'm like in the Twitter echo chamber of all of this rumblings about how great Opendoor is, or if I just need to step outside of that and realize, oh, it's just the same company. So Shawn, I mean, my question to you is, when you see a real estate stock jump from 51 cents per share to over $9 per share, I mean, what are your thoughts on that, and what do you think is behind this comeback?
Speculation. And the key was that the new COO, whatever his name is, Kaz, said that his projection or his goal was to get the stock from the 51 cents, what it was, to $82.
$82. There's some $82 number.
Right. So if you're like, well, this guy's super smart, I believe he's going to get there, but I don't care how he's going to get there. I'm just going to invest, right? And so everybody's investing thinking, oh my gosh, $82. I don't care if I buy it at $2, $5, $10. If it goes to $8, it's 8 times what my money is. So naturally there's speculation. And so there's all these investors saying, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. This is my chance. My home run is here. And so, yeah, your home run might have already happened. If you bought it at 50 cents, you're golden right now. And so, but will it get to $82? And that's the question. And so now you have to look at the logistics of everything that they're doing. And is it smart investing? Are they doing it the right way? And will the numbers in the end cause that stock, when the actual numbers come out, will it cause that stock to go up or down? And, they're still, even now, saying that their numbers are going to be losses. So is it your investment going to be good? That's the question.
There's no, reading from an article, there's no way to hide that Opendoor Technologies' current earnings are negative $305 million. With that current earnings, analysts expect revenue to decrease 2.9% annually over the next 3 years. Opendoor's forecast of reaching $239.7 million in profit by 2028 would require an improbable swing of a negative 12.4x PE ratio to 5.1x. So you have this huge spread, price to earnings spread of negative 12 up to 5. It seems improbable, but if there is someone to do it, maybe it is, these guys with all this background. I'm curious, when you hear that, like, Opendoor is back, Opendoor has the headlines, what does that actually mean in today's real estate market? Because you're talking about the momentum, the people buying the shares, the people that want their golden goose. I don't know if those retail investors actually know what Opendoor does, like, on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, that's the thing, that's the problem. They're going on speculation and hope that this is the home run, but they're not going on the fundamentals of what this company is going to do or what they're built on. And what they're built on is iBuying. And iBuying was a loser 5 years ago that we talked about, and I talked about extensively on this show, that it was a losing proposition.
I'm gonna push back a little bit because iBuying, I think AI pricing, everyone is honing in on how can the AI, how can we use AI? I mean, what was AI 5 years ago? It was nothing. It was just a couple Zillow algorithms, and you add some numbers together. Now AI is like bringing back photos of the 1930s and like turning them into videos. It's crazy.
It's insane.
And so, but everyone is talking about AI. But I don't think it's just AI, because you can hone in on like the best price possible and get a deal. But then what do you got to do? You got to go sell it.
Yeah.
You got to go turn around and stage the property, paint the property, update the property. And, savvy buyers out there are saying, oh, well, this property sold for $500,000 2 weeks ago. I see they put in a new bathroom vanity and they want $600,000. Well, not going to buy this one. So it's the AI, but that's just the tip of the iceberg for me.
Yeah. No, the thing is, you just said, they just bought it and now they're selling it again. Well, there are financial limitations to that as far as a lender goes when a buyer is buying it. So you have to know all these scenarios. Like, if you buy a property and then you're going to flip it 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, you can't. You have to wait a certain amount of time before certain lenders or certain types of lending will lend on that property. So if they saw a settlement, you got to wait 60 days or 90 days sometimes. Not every lending facility is going to do that. But you have to know those. The other thing is, when you're buying property, and I've said this so many times, it's a high risk, could be high reward or high loss probability. Like, holding property is tough and flipping property is tough, and the margins, you have to get them at good deals. Not only that, as we know, real estate is seasonal. And so when you're going to make all your money in real estate is in the spring market, right? You're making it in the spring market. Then just as a real estate agent, right? We know this. We know we're going to make most of our money in the spring market. And then we have to save that money so that we can get through the dull times, the hard times. And then again, it'll kick in the spring. So we're not going to make as much money in the winter months. It's just a proven fact, right? That's typical. So they have to then get past those markers and be able to say, all right, when are we buying these? Are we buying them in the spring market when prices are going up? Appraisers are trying to appraise it higher. But then all of a sudden in the fall and in the winter, we're going to see prices kind of retract a little bit. Is that the time they're buying? I don't know. I mean, so if you buy it in the spring and then you try to sell it in the winter, you're not going to be able to realize those two things.
But what market are you talking about? That might be true for our market, but Opendoor's, nationwide. I mean, this is like $1 billion company. They're not just selling in Northern Virginia.
You're right. I'd say it's true for most markets. Now, the Sun Belt might be different.
I mean, like the Florida winter market, the Phoenix winter market. I mean, these are probably hot time. I don't know the Phoenix, real estate market, but that might be the best time to sell.
Well, that's why they have to be selective on where they're buying and what markets they're buying in. If they go too broad, like I've said before, and I said this years ago, you have to have boots on the ground. Mm-hmm. That's the key. The boots on the ground, the agents, and that's why we're not going away. You can rely on AI and all this other stuff, but you need integration of the professionals on the ground to make this work. And that is the difference of what they're doing now. That is the key difference. They are relying on real estate agents to go into these homes now and say, hey, we have a lead for you, Matt. I've got a lead for you as a listing agent. Opendoor, I will take 25% or whatever percentage of the deal when you get it, that's coming back to Opendoor. There's the difference right there, okay? They're relying on an agent to walk in, and if they get the deal, they have two propositions. They can go to home seller and say, Opendoor will give you cash of this amount, or you can sell it on the open market at this amount, or you can invest your own money and we can get Y for this. What would you like to do? If they go Opendoor cash offer, the agent's going to get a little bonus. If they put it on the market, Opendoor is going to make the money on the agent's commission, a portion of that commission. So I think that's the difference right there, is they're kind of getting into the Zillow model a little bit, and they're going to make money off of different aspects of this. And the agent's not going away. They have to be there, because you can rely on AI as much as you want, but there's about 10%, maybe 10% of the entire population of real estate that might go this model, right? It's a smaller percentage than that, probably. So those people are probably going to be like, oh, Opendoor cash offer, okay, that's cool, I'll take it. Most people want to maximize their profits when they're selling, and they're not going to go for that. And so that's going to be squashed away, and Opendoor's not going to get that. But now they're hiring the agent, they're finding the deal. Where is the money in real estate, Matt?
When you buy.
Well, it's in the lead.
Oh.
Right?
Oh, you're talking about
lead. Yeah. In the real estate process, what we as agents always fight to get and spend our money on is the lead. You the buyer, you the seller. That's who we want. That's where we're going to make our money, because we're going to sell your house and we're going to make the money. But it's getting that lead that's difficult. And in my opinion, the way I do it, the way we do it, is we use our own advertising dollars to get that lead. All right? I'm going to advertise your house to the area that I focus on. And over, they're going to see my advertising, but it's also going to help sell your house. So at the same time, I'm advertising you, your house, and myself, right? And that then perpetuates the more and more listings and the way you grow your farm or you grow your area in a real estate side of things, the normal way, the way that I would do it, or I do it. The other way is to pay Zillow a fee, because they're getting all these leads from the platform. And so that's where Opendoor is changing and saying, all right, well, let's integrate that into our sales process and let's make money.
They're diversifying their income streams. They're saying, okay, well, maybe losing $1 billion flipping houses wasn't the best thing. Let's just copy and paste what Zillow's doing and make some money off the agents.
Yeah. I mean, and the agents then, and what you have to understand about this is Zillow, and I've said this many times, they need to disclose, but Zillow's making a percentage of each deal, or that agent is paying into them.
Well, they may need to disclose because they're getting sued for not disclosing.
And that's, you want to fight about commissions and why they're high and blah, blah, blah. The reason commissions stay up is because there's a lot of players in these commissions. Agents aren't always getting all the money.
So
anyways,
what, if you were Opendoor's CEO, if you were Kaz, what part of the model needs to be fixed to head towards some sort of profitability?
You have to not rely so much on the iBuying side of things and rely more on the agent side of things.
So what I hear you saying is fundamentally, maybe they need to shift what they actually do.
Yeah.
But that's okay, because some companies do that, right? Like Facebook was a dating site, and then it, turned into a social network.
Yeah.
So maybe they're not a house flipping company. Maybe, I mean, Kaz has always said there needs to be a way to make buying and selling a house less arduous, less of a headache. You got appraisals, you got inspections, you got title, you got lenders, you got all this headache, and then all these fees that you got to pay. There's got to be an easier way. And so sure, we look at it and we say, okay, yeah, it's an iBuying company, but what if they're not an iBuying company?
Yeah.
What if they're the future of real estate?
Yeah, maybe they fundamentally change how real estate takes a hold, right? Think about this. We do a home inspection after the fact. Why isn't the home inspection done before you put the house on the market? And then
in some markets it is, and I think that's a much better way of doing it.
And maybe that's Opendoor. Maybe that's a way Opendoor does it. You have to fundamentally change how real estate is transacted to kind of change the way, if you want to get agents out of it. And that's a hard thing to do. The problem with agents are always going to be there, in my opinion, is because most people want somebody, a professional, to get them through that. It's like, do you want to go in and in front of a judge and plead your own case? Or would you rather have a lawyer that knows the judge, that knows how these things work and knows what to say, when to say it?
I think a lot of people would want an AI lawyer.
An AI lawyer
for like
better.
for like $10.
But yeah, you're right. That could be the thing. But here's the other thing is you have to know the people of where to go. So I was thinking about this in the shower again, and I'm like, well, one other thing that agents are responsible for, or me, myself, what a service that I give my clients is knowing the processes of renovating your house and helping you renovate and finding the contractors and all of that, right?
The AI price to buy the house, that's the easiest thing to do. The real work starts, okay, we have the house, what do we need to do now?
Yeah.
To sell it?
And that's really it. And so that's where I come in, and I feel like the value in a real estate agent is market knowledge. It's knowledge of how to flip properties. It's knowledge of who's in the area, how to negotiate, all that stuff, right? That's not going to go away. The fundamental here is the lead. It's always the lead, and it will always be the lead. It's the consumer that we are trying to get, and that's where we're going to make our money. And that's where Opendoor has to change its policy, and that's what looks like they're doing. I think they go away from the iBuying as much. Only in certain markets are they going to do the iBuying, probably. And they have to get these at margins that totally make sense, that they're killing it, right? The cash offers have to be so low, but so convenient. And there are people out there, believe me, they're out there that will take that, because there are different sellers in these markets. One is the seller that has lived there for 25 years. They've seen their market, they've seen their property increase in value an extra, a huge amount. And they're like, I've already made it. I don't care. I don't want the headache. I just want to move out of here and say, see you later. You deal with it. They're going to be there, and that's who they're going after. Most of the other people are going to be like, no, I'm not going to take your cash offer. I would rather put my own money into this and sell it for the max profit. Okay, well, that's where the agent relationship with Opendoor is going to come in, and that's where the Opendoor is going to make the money.
Well, let's look at that, because they're trying to tackle a market. I don't know if you want to call it the distressed market, the have-to-sell market. Mm-hmm. I mean, what type of person wants to take like 92% of their market value, 93% of their fair market value? Because ultimately what it comes down to is this AI platform so beneficial that I want to sell right now for a 7% haircut, or I want to stay on the market? Because what exactly is staying on the market? Is that, hey, I go out of town and it's sold for multiple offers in a weekend like it's 2021? Or is that we're going to be on the market for 3 months. There's going to be 3 price drops at 30-day intervals. You're going to have to paint the entire house. You're going to have to stage. You're going to have to, move your dog into the garage for every showing. No one wants that. No. So, what type of market are we going to be heading into that this could actually work in?
I mean, right now we're seeing stories like this even in our market. Our market is very strong, and people aren't used to 6 months on the market. And there are people out there that are going through that right now. And so, but I think that the 7% variance, I think it's more than that. I think it's got to be 20%. Like you're going to take a 10, 15, 20% haircut if you're going. Yeah, I think it's way more.
I think most of the numbers I was looking at were like 8% difference. But if you want to say it's more, then maybe it's more.
Remember what they were doing? I think it's got to be more than that, because if you think about it, 8% isn't enough to cover the real estate fees. You know what I mean? So like it's got to be 8%, like they were doing before. Oh, we'll give you this for your house, but then they do the home inspection. You remember that? Mm-hmm. Oh, well, after the home inspection, now we see what's wrong with the house and what we have to do. We're going to offer you, $50,000 less. Mm-hmm. That's really what's happening, and what has to happen for Opendoor to make a profit. They're not going to make it on 7 or 8%. It has to be a lot more than that. And if you look at any of these investors, like your brother flips properties. He knows that he's got to get these properties.
He won't look at it unless it's like 25%, below market value.
You have to get it at least 25% lower, because you're going to put all this, you're taking on the risk, you're putting all the money into it. You have to go to the county to get all the stuff done. It takes time. This stuff takes time. And as counties get more harder and harder to get through, to get your permits and everything else, it's a pain in the butt if you need the permits. Sometimes a slap of pain is all you need.
For the people that are selling to Opendoor, do you think that they fully understand what they're giving up by not going on the market? Or do you think maybe they're just wowed by a TV commercial and like a splashy iPad presentation?
Probably not. They're probably not aware, or they don't care. Those buyers, those sellers that are doing that are at the end. They're just like, I don't care anymore. I just, you know what, you want to make money? Cool. I'm already making my $500,000 on this property. I'm cool with 500 grand. You take the extra. You take the headache. See you later.
So you keep talking about sellers that have a lot of equity in their house, because that's essentially the only type of seller that this would work for. Because like if you have to sell instantly, you're not going to sell for like underwater, right? If those are your two options.
You can't. And that's the thing, is then you get into short sales and things like that. And that's where it doesn't work. So it's the smaller portion of the sellers.
Does iBuying only work in like a rising market? You know, because if there is 60 days, 90 days on the market, price drops, now we're in a down market. So you got to buy it. You got to buy it at an even lower price and then try to sell it for more.
And that's
somehow.
What I've always said is the riskiest thing about iBuying is there's so many different factors in this that can affect your bottom line. And, you know, and if you're trying to do it in so many different cities with so many different, you know, algorithms that you're looking at, it doesn't matter the algorithm. I mean, like, there are so many different markets that happen in real time. And I was reading an article that was saying like, oh, real estate values, you know, August was the biggest boom, you know, like that's what they were basing their numbers on. And I'm like, well, let's see what September and October are looking like, because they're going to be different. They're not going to be October's numbers, you know? And so like, you have to know the different cyclical monthly kind of trends that are happening in order to make this work. And right now, properties are starting to sit on the market. Depends on what you're selling. Inventory is higher. And are you willing to take on that risk as an iBuyer? But again, the integration of the agent and making the money off the commission is where they're, I think, going to make more money. But are our agents going to be willing to do that? And this is another thing. It depends on the agent. There's agents like myself, like I'm not interested in that, right?
What are you not interested in?
I don't want to pay a company for a lead. Okay. That's just not my model. I'm not into that. There are plenty of really successful agents that have done that. But what are the agents then taking on? They're taking on a risk. I don't want to take on a huge risk like that. I've done that in my past and I lost big time. When you talk to agents that are on these Zillow platforms, they're spending 10, 20, 50, sometimes $100,000 a month to get these leads. You better have a team that is willing and able to then sell these properties so that you are making a profit. And so you're spending money to make money. Whereas, you know, I thought the risk was too high on those and the payout isn't enough. And so I would rather spend my marketing dollar and, you know, over and over again for years. And it took a long time, but now I spend a lot less, but I still get the deals. And I don't have to do as many deals as these people are doing just because they're making less money. And so if I can concentrate on the sales that I'm doing and renovate them for them and help them sell it quickly, that's my model. You know, I'm not going to pay it. But, you know, there's always going to be those agents and those teams that's what they survive on. And a lot of people think that, oh, there's so much money. These teams are making so much. The team head is making so much money. I've talked to team heads and they're like, I make nothing off these people. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's a headache. It can be a real big headache. And what I've found is leaner, sometimes better. You know, It just depends on what you want to get into. But.
So specifically in 2022, Opendoor reported a loss of $1.4 billion after a loss of $662 million in 2021. So, you know, everyone from the open army that just wants to talk about AI and pricing, are you pretty much doing the same thing where you lost $1.4 billion? Like, it's got to be something else. There's got to be more to the program. And whether that's diversifying, whether that's adding title, you know, mortgage, ancillary services, there needs to be something else. So, Shawn, I'm wondering what the future of Opendoor is going to look like, because it's starting to feel like this, you know, GameStop, meme stockify sort of situation where I want to know what's everyone excited about. Are they excited because a big-time hedge fund guy said it'd be $82 a share? Or are they excited because there's going to be a fundamental way that Americans are going to buy houses? Because, I mean, it could be a lot worse. We could be the UK. You know what they have? I mean, they don't even own the land in the UK. And there's like a chain where, you know, if you don't buy, then like 7 other people, you know, can't buy either. So, you know, buying a house in the United States, not easy, but it could be a lot worse. So, Shawn, what does the future of Opendoor look like to you?
Well, I think the key here is that they are relying, again, on the agent, okay? And follow me here. They are now going into and what the agent is going to do is then back up their AI possibilities, okay? So the agent is going in there, and what do we use algorithms for. We use algorithms to get valuations. And I look at them every time before I go on a listing appointment.
They're good like baseline,
They're
right?
baseline.
To see that you're in the ballpark.
You're in the ballpark. All right, this is what this is saying. This is what, so I'm not way low or way high.
You know, they look at the bedrooms, the bathrooms, the square footage, general idea. And then once you get in, you can kind of say, all right, first level master, this type of layout, these sort of upgrades, and you can change the, amount from there.
But what AI and what these algorithms don't know is what the agents do know. And the agents on the ground, and this is how they're integrating it. They're taking the agent on the ground and they're going into this house and they're actually seeing it. They're taking pictures, maybe taking video, and they're looking at systems and things like that. Then they're plugging that into their AI system, right? And so now they have a better valuation for that house. And then they can extrapolate and say, all right, well, if we do 5 of these in this and we're getting the same trend, now that algorithm is going to adjust for those things. And so that is where it's going to take a little bit of time, but that's where they could see a trend where their algorithm works better. And typically then people will use that as a...
You're very agent centric, which you're real estate. We're both real estate agents. I think I know why.
Yeah.
I think if you talk to a lot of people that have invested a lot of money in Opendoor, like the retail investors, they would say that the future of real estate has fewer agents and doesn't rely on agents. So there seems to be this dichotomy of the people that are investing in Opendoor are saying, get rid of these pesky agents and their pesky fees. And you're saying, no, Opendoor needs agents. How do you kind of marry those two and how do you kind of figure out who's on the right end of the spectrum there?
Just by that, I mean, the Opendoor is relying on the agent. The agent is making the money. How do you make money in real estate? You sell real estate. You become a real estate agent, but you have to have the work ethic and the knowledge, and it takes a long time, and you have to make sacrifices. The agent's making the money, all right? That's just it. And who's making the money off the agent? The brokerage and all of these small platforms. So the problem with becoming an agent is finding the lead. Spending 20 years in marketing like I have done takes a long time, and it builds and builds over time. But most people don't want to put in that work, so they pay for the lead. The lead is then reliant on the agent, and the agent's going to pull the money in, and that's where Opendoor is going to make the money. That's why they have to rely on the agent on the short term. Could this change over the next 20 years? Yeah, but I think it's going to take a long time. It's not going to be like, 5 years down the road, there's no more agents. It's going to take time. The other thing is all of the older people in who owns all the real estate? The baby boomers.
The boomers.
The boomers are not going to use AI. They're just not. So there's going to be another 20 years of selling that people like that are just not going to use. They're not going to use those platforms. They don't use it now, and they're not going to use it to sell their house. They're going to use an agent. And that's just me being fundamental about this and knowing who our clients are. And that's the difference. And, so what they have to do to be profitable right now is use us to get them there. Not me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Not Shawn.
Not me.
Other agents.
Other agents, yeah. Because I'm not going to pay you. I'm just not going to pay you for your lead, because your leads are, number one, you have to have a system to follow up with these leads. And it takes a long time, and it's a lot of pain. And I'm just not that.
But there will be tens of thousands of agents that will pay tens of thousands of dollars
absolutely
to Opendoor.
And you've seen it with Zillow. Why was Zillow so profitable?
Yeah,
because they were relying on
do
the
what
agent.
Zillow does.
And what did they start doing? They started saying, all right, well, you can have 2 different models now. You can either pay us monthly, or we'll just take a chunk of every deal that you close. And then we're going to spend more time on making sure these deals close by making them warmer leads for you.
I think Zillow's now forcing people to jump onto one of those plans. So they're no longer giving the option. It's more of a forced option.
Yeah, it's a forced option. So what is it reliant on? It's reliant on the person, the agent. And I'm going to double down on that. I'm going to say the agent's not going anywhere. They are relying on us. These tech companies need us. And we are the knowledge. We're the knowledge. I'm combined 35 years of knowledge of this market. And we watch the trends every day like no one else. Now, AI can read that in 3 seconds, but like,
but AI can't read the nuances of the neighborhoods and the floor plans and the ins and outs of the property.
And they can't talk to sellers and make them comfortable yet. Correct. Now that's coming, I guess. But I still believe that there is going to be a human element that has to be in this.
So Shawn, the stock's at what, 921 or something like that. There's a lot of people on the internet that'll say it'll get to 82. How much money are you investing in Opendoor stock?
I think the price increase has already happened. Once the numbers come out for Q4, Q3, Q4, the stock is not going to go any higher. And then it's going to be real market value that has to push the stock. And if we start seeing, and like they said, they have to make up 17% from where they are now, 17% to just get them to profitability, to get them to a portion of making money. And so that's a big swing. And it's going to take some time. And they even said 2028 before they even try to get there. So this stock's not going to be popping anytime soon, in my opinion. I think it's probably maxed out. Maybe could go a little bit higher, but that's it.
So you're not investing in hype.
I would have at 50 cents if had I known, but no.
You don't look at a P&L statement and go down to the hype line?
The hype. Where's the hype
and then
column?
You see fire emojis. You don't invest in that.
Yeah, it's all the social media that has already made their money. They've made their money, man. And now it's you, the investor, that bought it at $10. That's gonna wait for it to go to 12 to sell it. It ain't going to 82 right now. It's that's where I'm thinking.
So, I mean, I kind of like some things Opendoor are doing, but I'm reminded that it's simply the same company that lost $1.4 billion. Now, if they sort of shift away from house flipping at scale and maybe figure out a way to become the future of real estate, I don't know how they do it. That's why they're paying Kaz. I think his salary is like $1, but then if he hits certain metrics, he can make like $100 million or like some crazy amount. But with all of the acquisitions, I'm wondering, would Opendoor buy Compass? Would Compass buy Opendoor? Would Zillow buy Opendoor? Do you see some sort of acquisition play that Opendoor could be acquired or could acquire someone else?
That's a really good point. It's a risk on the iBuying platform. I mean, we've all tried it. We saw Century 21 trying to do the iBuying platform.
Everyone's got an iBuying, yeah,
and it didn't work. Now here's a thing that I just thought of. Why don't you and instead of going after the agent, or while you're going after the agent, go after the mom and pop flippers, right? And say, hey, I got a lead. Will you pay me X% for this lead, right? Because that's where the money is. They don't need to make as much money.
You talking about wholesaling?
Wholesaling, or like say you have a house now that wants a cash offer, okay? Instead of Opendoor dulling out the cash offer, you give it to the small investor and take a small chunk, right? You then are leveraging. You're not putting out your cash. That's where it's tough. When you're putting out your cash over and over, give it to a small investor. Take 10%, take 15%, whatever it is off the top. Like a little, not 10%, but you know what I mean. Like take a little bit and sell it on. All right. Then you're reducing your risk, and so start integrating find the mom and pop flippers. There's tons of them. I just got a text this morning. Hey, you got any leads? It's all these bots that are out there trying to get the leads. Partner up with them. Don't put out your cash. That's the way to grow it, in my opinion.
Yeah. So 2020 to 2022, everyone had their iBuyer platform. Doesn't matter the brokerage. Now, what do all brokerages have, Shawn? They all have their private exclusive websites. I mean, could there be a play where Opendoor hoards some listings and say, hey, come to Opendoor, we have all the listings? Because you're talking about where's the money? The money's in the lead. Well, the money's also in the listings. And if Opendoor has the listings, maybe agents can pay to be affiliated with those listings somehow. And if there's more traffic going to Opendoor, there's more brand visibility and more volume there. Do you think there could be like a private listing?
I think there situation? Could be, but you know what that takes is a lot of capital, a ton of capital to be able to purchase these houses and then sell them. Or, I mean, they could on the agent side of things when they get their listing, but let's face it, they want those things to sell quickly, right? They don't want to put them on their own platform because time is money. And so I would think that they want to get it out to the masses so that it sells quickly so they can get their cash back and then reinvest it.
Yeah.
Could they kind of hold off on that? Well, yeah, maybe, but I don't think the coming soon thing, I get where Compass is going on this stuff, but I don't see the
private exclusive.
Yeah, but I don't see the huge value in it because we see that only 8% of those things sell off the market. It's
hey, we got a bunch of overpriced listings.
Yeah,
come check out our site.
It's fluff. It's just the flash in the pan to get you to sign the listing agreement. That's all it is. go on fundamentals to sign the lease agreement.
Yeah, I don't think the private exclusive will work, just working it out, because I mean the whole goal is to like double end the deal.
Yeah.
And if Opendoor doesn't really have agents, I know you say they want to have agents involved, but
It's
if
partnerships.
yeah,
It's not going to be an
if
agency.
I mean Opendoor has like one listing agent that lists all the houses. I was looking. Have you showed an Opendoor listing recently?
No, I haven't.
There's like 35 in our area. They all have like 50, 100 days on the market. The photos are
There you
awful.
go. There you go.
The listing descriptions, like a third of them advertise good under sink storage. Like you'll be impressed by the under sink storage. Like
AI doesn't work
when
all the
have
time.
you ever advertised under sink storage? It's
Never.
crazy.
And that's the thing is, like, I got asked to list a property in DC, and I was looking at it, and I'm like I went through and I told them all the things that's wrong with it. It's listed by an agent, and I was like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this should be changed. And they had just renovated it, and it said, you know, something to the effect of make this home could be your dream house. I'm like, you're selling it like it's like you need to do work in this. You should be saying this home is already your dream house, not it could be your dream house. You know, like that's the fundamental problem with a lot of agents and not knowing what to do and not knowing how to say things and not having the experience. You know, you could be an agent for 30 years, but if you haven't sold anything, you're not doing anything. You know, you're not learning.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to hear from the Open Army. That's what they're calling
Open Army.
The retail investors, the $ Open Army. On, hey, are we off base here, or are we kind of onto something? I mean, Opendoor's kind of taken the real estate industry by storm in terms of headlines and in terms of stock, but are they actually doing anything? And I think that's our question. So let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this, be sure to hit the thumbs up button. And for Shawn and myself, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Take care.